News Talk KVNU.
The information from the pretty balanced perspective.
Online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. City leaders in Kaysville plan to meet in the next few weeks to review how they handled parades in the wake of the death of 8-year-old Macy Hill. She died when she was struck by a vehicle during a 4th of July parade on Monday. According to volunteer parade director Chad Call, everything is on the table in the city's review. Call said the city already requires parade entrants to attend a safety meeting before the 4th of July parade. The city's existing safety rules require adult supervision of children and prohibit participants from getting on and off moving trailers. Hill's death was the second known incident involving parade vehicles and children on the 4th of July in Utah. According to Cedar City Police, a young girl was run over by a trailer during that city's parade on Monday. Macy Hill's death is not the first fatal parade accident in Utah. Back in 2017, 11-year-old Grace Iyer fell from a truck and was run over by a trailer during the parade in Nephi. Kaysville police said the accident that killed Macy is still under investigation. The department has not said if she was riding on a trailer or walking alongside it. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear skies, low in the upper 50s, and then sunny, hot mid-90s tomorrow with southwest winds. Back in the forecast, 10 to 20 miles per hour. It's been to 89. Right now it's 88 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Beaver Creek Lodge. Have you ever spent time enjoying beautiful Logan Canyon? The best way to enjoy the wildflowers and beautiful mountain scenery is on a side-by-side rental or horseback rental from Beaver Creek Lodge. Go to beavercreeklodge.com or for reservations, call 753-1076.
We live in a great country. We live in a great valley with a lot to be thankful for. U&I Furniture wants to take a minute and say thank you for being such good neighbors and friends and customers. U&I features many brand names, including many American-made chairs by Southern Motion, Best, Franklin, and Lane, Speed Queen appliances and therapeutic mattresses, Legend brand TV consoles and entertainment centers. Find these American-made brand furniture products at the place where there's always a better buy, U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. A 31-year-old Logan man was arrested for allegedly striking another individual with a baseball bat during a dispute. According to police, Eric Alberto Ramos Santiago was booked into the Cache County Jail Monday night after turning himself in to jail deputies. According to an arrest affidavit, Logan City police officers responded to a 911 hang-up Monday night. When they arrived in the area of 300 South, 500 West, they learned an assault had occurred. The alleged victim had been transported to Logan Regional Hospital with a laceration on their hand and a skull fracture. They were later flown by medical helicopter to McKay-D Hospital. Police interviewed witnesses who described how Ramos Santiago and the alleged victim had been in a verbal dispute earlier in the evening. The suspect left and later returned with a baseball bat, smashing it against the alleged victim's head. He also stated that he had a gun and lifted up his waistband before fleeing the area. Officers found blood on the driveway in multiple locations. There was also a large amount of blood on the hood and driver's side of a vehicle. Several hours later, Ramos Santiago reportedly turned himself in to the Cache County Jail. He later told officers the alleged victim had threatened to kill him and he was trying to defend himself. He claimed that he was worried the alleged victim would come to his house and kill him or his family, so he grabbed the baseball bat and went back to confront the man, according to the affidavit. And outdoor markets continue to be popular in Utah and here in the Cache Valley with the Cache Valley Gardeners Market, also the Midweek Center Street Market in downtown Logan. And for the last couple of summers, the Hyrum Farmkids Market. President of the committee that oversees that market, Amanda Butler, highlighted the unique feature of this market.
So it's a market. It's like a farmer's market, but all the vendors are kids, and we run every Saturday in the Hyrum City baseball fields from 9 to noon, but every vendor is a kid.
She described what people will find at the Hyrum Farm Kids Market.
It was such a wide variety. Anything you'd see at a farmer's market. We have kids who feed their own chickens and bring the eggs to sell. We have kids who make lollipops. We have kids who make jewelry. You know, our age range is from 5 to 17, and so we end up getting a large variety of items. We have body scrubs, all sorts of different kinds of food, popcorn. Some people make fresh popcorn.
And they even had some kids who were breeding rabbits and brought little baby bunnies to the market. Butler said in all there are roughly 20 vendors each weekend. She said the market will continue on Saturdays to about August 13th, which is about the time school starts up again. It's 5:11. KVNU News has been brought to you by U&I Furniture. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
It's time for the Downtown Sidewalk Sale. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, shop S.E. Needham Jewelers both inside and outside. You'll find bargains under the tent. This is a store-wide clearance sale on giftware, watches, clocks, and jewelry. Buy one item, get one free on giftware. Enter to win the giveaway of diamond earrings valued at $2,500. Find closeout deals on diamonds. If you're getting engaged, this is an event you don't want to miss. Shop downtown. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aids. Once again, you'll be able to hear a loved one's laughter and understand conversations. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Call 753-4327. That's 753-HEAR. Or visit CacheHearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Hey, it's me, the regular dad. I ask guys like you a few questions, a kind of parenting test. So here goes. What is this sound? Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? That's the sound a young teenager makes when he's done something he regrets. Maybe he got caught up in peer pressure, tried a few drinks at a party, and the next morning, well, he makes this sound. Kind of a sad sound, isn't it? Hear the embarrassment, the reluctance, the pulling away. If you recognized it, then you know exactly what to do. Listen. It might take a long time, a drive together, or a walk that turns into a talk, and that turns into an arm around his shoulder that means you understand. That's when you can really talk, when he knows you understand. Then the both of you can figure out how not to make the same mistake again. I know it's tough. Keep at it. You're doing great.
This message brought to you by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, Hour 2 of today's show. I always forget my music request, Bill, until I hear the music as we come in. Well, it wasn't my music request. We don't often get requests, but today we had a music request from a listener. I'll get it to you.
Was it?
It's they're celebrating
like Kenny Chesney or
no, they're celebrating an anniversary, and she's pretty sure that her husband would be listening right about now. So I won't spoil this yet, but we'll see if we can make that happen. So always happy to serve listeners. Hour 2 of today's show. It is Thursday, July 7th. Thor, Love and Thunder, hitting theaters tonight. We'll be talking about that tomorrow on the show with the For the People movie show guy, or Movie Boy, as he calls himself, or as he was called once, as an insult.
Movie Boy?
Yeah, someone got he criticized someone for having their phone out through the whole movie, and the other person said, what are you, like a professional movie goer? And he said, well, yeah, actually, I'm a movie critic. And the guy said, well, now listen, Movie Boy. And yeah, it's a pretty funny story. It's funnier when Andy tells it, but
complete with the accent and everything.
That's right. But he'll be with us tomorrow, and I'm curious about this because we've discussed this a lot on the movie show. Are we seeing a pause, a little bit of a lull, or the end of the big Marvel era? So this is the one everyone's been watching, Thor 4. Basically, Love and Thunder. So we'll talk about that tomorrow on the show. We were hoping to start things off here with a guest. Didn't work out schedule-wise, and we understand if you're out there listening, Mr. Potential Guest. But we'll talk about what this was going to be about anyway, because it's a pretty big deal for northern Utah. Well, it's a pretty big deal for Utah, but it's also a pretty big deal for the future of northern Utah specifically. Governor Spencer Cox announced an appointment to the Utah. I'm Googling here fast because I can't remember if it's department or division, and they go back and forth on this. It is department. Okay, so it's the Utah Department of Natural. It's difficult because it's the Utah Division of Water Quality. Utah Department of Natural Resources will soon be headed up by none other, in the role of executive director, Northern Utah House Representative, until now at least, Joel Ferry. And Governor Spencer Cox made that announcement last week, and it will basically bring a longtime lawmaker, not longtime lawmaker, but someone who'd had some pretty big success in a short time in the House of Representatives. Representative Ferry took the spot previously occupied by Representative Perry, leading to some confusion, believe it or not. But he's had some really good years in the House of Representatives. He's represented basically District 1, not the congressional congressional district, the Utah House District. And he's done that since 2019. And he served in that time on the House Business and Labor Committee and the Legislative Water Development Commission, and was a member of the Criminal Justice Appropriations Subcommittee, the big committee that worked on judicial reforms and more. He also was pretty heavily involved in his short time in the House in the Cannabis Governance Structure Working Group, and has been a long-time member of, his entire time there actually was a member of the Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Environmental Interim Committee. So he's kind of perfectly positioned for this, but also this is Governor Cox holding to a campaign promise still. And he's going to, I'm waiting for it. Eventually, I think Cox is going to start getting some pushback on this from the urban metropolitan centers of the state. And hopefully he stands firm, because they've definitely had their time in the spotlight already. And we're a long ways from equity on people from rural areas being represented in, the cabinet of the governor. No offense to Herbert or even Huntsman before him, anyone before Huntsman. They do their best, but oftentimes the talent pool that they know of, at least, is closer to their own circles. So Cox has gone out of his way in a couple of different ways. This will make the second fairly prestigious appointment of an official from northern Utah. Cache Valley former county executive Craig Butters was appointment to the Utah Department of Ag to oversee that by the governor in his very first few months. He made that announcement. And then this announcement with a retiring executive director to tap a northern Utah lawmaker from a rural area. Again, Representative Ferry, District 1 is roughly, for those of us here in Cache Valley, the Willard area, roughly. It's a smart decision. Because the Utah Department of Natural Resources, for those not familiar with what exactly goes on here, the governor has just tapped someone that operates their own farm, has experience operating feedlots and even hunting properties out in Corinne, and is basically an expert on land conservation, environmental conservation, and water policy as it pertains to agriculture. And Governor Cox just appointed him to oversee the department that is basically going to oversee and implement legislative decisions pertaining to all of that. So as the legislature beefs up funding for rescuing the Great Salt Lake, as they put a tighter rein on funding for water development projects, because it's going to be really key how and where and why we develop for water, as we consider ways to make it go as far as it can, knowing that our options for more are pretty limited. It's basically the governor saying, I want someone from rural Utah with some experience in these types of things, with a mind for environmentalism. That will surprise a lot of people, I think, considering what you hear sometimes from more of the spotlight chasing members of the Republican majority in the Utah House. There are actual environmentalists there, and Representative Ferry is one of them, and has never apologized for that. And as a conservative Republican, he says the two go hand in hand, and he wishes more people realize that, where it's become a bit of a political football. It's not cool in Republican circles to be an environmentalist. Ferry has said before that makes no sense to him. That being a conservative is a lot about preservation. And environmentalism is basically preservation of one of the most important things there is, which is land, air, and water. Things that are kind of necessary for life, right? This is, honestly, no offense to Craig Butters and his appointment to the Utah Department of Agriculture to direct that department by Governor Cox. I think that was smart. This is a person with a lot of experience, Butters, in especially dairies and farming, but food and food distribution in general. Smart move. But this one, I think, knocks it out of the park as far as Governor Cox's promise to build a bigger voice for rural Utah. Not to necessarily overpower the metropolitan areas and their representatives and voices, but as the governor said, to create equity, because he feels, and he's right, that rural Utah has been pushed to a secondary position in a lot of legislative debates where rural Utah should have been front and center. Rural Utah has been pushed to an afterthought by long-term planning by the state in a lot of ways. And part of that is understandable. The needs and demands of the metropolitan areas are huge. But things are pretty pressing right now for a lot of rural areas, too. So the governor wants equity in that. He wants at least equal voice for the rural areas. In any way, a governor can make that happen. And cabinet appointments, directorships, executive directors of some important state departments when an opening pops up, that's where a governor can have some real influence. And Cox is definitely flexing that muscle with this appointment. Representative Ferry, I think, put someone into the executive director spot over the Department of Natural Resources at a time when public policy passed by the legislature, public debates, ongoing management issues the department is tasked for involving land conservation, water conservation, planning for the future, environmentalism, the future of agriculture in Utah. All of this is going to be the focus, has been, but is going to even more so be the focus of the Utah Department of Natural Resources going forward as this growth starts to really manifest here in Utah. And the governor has just appointed Representative Ferry from right here in northern Utah, a person with hands-on experience in being an environmentalist here in northern Utah, land conservation issues, preserving agriculture. Ferry operates his own ranch and farm, of course, and at one time a feedlot and a hunting property out in Corinne. He has some experience with, managing here in northern Utah. He knows what the issues we're facing here in northern Utah are, and he is now in the top spot at the department that will oversee and implement everything the legislature does from here on out regarding land and water. This is a pretty big deal. So we reached out to Representative Ferry, who will soon become Executive Director Ferry, with this appointment announcement last week. And schedules didn't allow for it, but we will get him on the show next week and talk about what it is from northern Utah that he would like to take to the Department of Natural Resources in his new role as Executive Director. I'll read the full thing, even some choice quotes from Ferry himself on why he thinks he can bring something very, very unique to the table. That's linked on our Facebook page, or you can actually read it in the governor's own announcement at governor.utah.gov. And we'll be back right after this.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, we meet the challenge. In cybersecurity, protecting and defending in cyberspace. When natural disasters happen, we are there in space. As a strong part of the nation's defense, we are there in the community, and we are there for our nation. We share a vision to make a difference, united and focused, taking pride in being there in service of our country. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I stumbled across some interesting history on accident, of course. It's usually how I find my most fun trivia on the history of farmers markets. I'm not going to spoil this, though, because we have an opportunity to rope this in with something cool happening here in Cache Valley. In fact, it's been happening every Saturday for a bit now, and it's called the Farmkids Market. It happens out in Hyrum each and every Saturday there at the baseball fields near the rodeo grounds. And it draws a pretty big crowd. I've seen this when I've driven past, and I've even seen, because of some relatives that picked them up, some of the cool art projects, including a pen shaped like a reptile that came with a frog. So cool stuff.
That sounds cool.
We'll talk about that on the other side. Bill had a chance to reach out to them and nail down some time with Amanda Butler, who's helped to organize this each and every Saturday out in Hyrum. So that's coming up a bit. We also had a listener email in saying that they were getting overwhelmed by all the different advice, sometimes contradictory, on lawns and water and what helps and what doesn't when it comes to conservation. And I've experienced that too. But I wanted to throw out something kind of counter to that, which is that I've noticed in my own yard a big change in how much water I need to use by doing 3 simple things that we learned here on the show from a guest from the Utah State University Extension WaterWise group. I took those 3 things, I tried it, and it worked. I'm using less water by about half. My yard doesn't look ugly. Trees and shrubs aren't dead. It really does work. And it was 3 inexpensive, free for 2 of them, not at all time-consuming things that I did. So we'll break that down a little bit, as well as some of the latest tips on water-wise yardscaping and more from Utah State University. All that coming up after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:30, and the news is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Law enforcement expressed their appreciation for the public's help after a 75-year-old man who was last seen on the west side of Logan was found safe. Owen Brosh was last in the area of 1600 North, 200 West at around 8:30 Thursday morning. Logan City Police Captain Curtis Hooley said Brosh was not from Cache Valley and not familiar with the area. Family had told police that the man has diminished mental capacity and has suffered a head injury in the past, making him hard to communicate with and for him to find his way. Brosh was reportedly visiting family in the area to attend a musical production at Utah State. They were staying at an Airbnb Thursday morning when he wandered off. Law enforcement began searching for the man after the family contacted police. A photo and description of Brosh were distributed through local news outlets and social media. Hooley said Brosh was located walking near 2700 South, US 8991 in Wellsville at around 3 p.m. He appeared to be in good condition, but was checked out by paramedics as a precaution due to the hot temperatures. 2 children were hospitalized after a major autocyclist crash occurred involving an SUV, which closed the road for several hours. The crash happened around noon Wednesday in South Jordan. According to KUTV, there was a black SUV off to the side of the road. Eric Anderson with the South Jordan Police Department was unable to confirm the exact ages involved, but they seemed to be children between the ages of 9 and 10. Anderson said when help arrived, both children were unconscious. One child was transported by Lifelight helicopter to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake, and the other child was sent by ground via ambulance. Anderson said the boys remained in critical condition. He said the 2 children were friends and did not think they were related. According to a preliminary investigation, police said the SUV's driver veered off the road, dragging the children about 150 to 200 feet before coming to a stop. The cause of the crash was still under investigation. The female driver of the SUV remained on scene and was cooperating with officials. And deputies in Bonneville County, Idaho, are asking for the public's help in finding 3 inmates who cut their ankle monitors off and did not return to jail. The 3 suspects were identified as 22-year-old Levi Bautista, 35-year-old Tyson Mitchell, and 42-year-old Peter Lewis. Deputies said they were on work release and court-ordered furlough, but they found all 3 monitors had been cut. Bautista is described as being about 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing about 180 pounds, with black hair, brown eyes. Mitchell is also about 5 feet 10, around 185, with black hair and brown eyes as well. Bonneville County said Mitchell also has a tattoo on his neck with the numbers 208. Lewis is described as approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall, about 200 pounds, black hair and brown eyes. Anyone who sees these suspects should not approach them and should immediately contact Bonneville County Dispatch at area code 208-529-1200 or their local law enforcement. KVNU News Time is 5:34.
My guy is so amazing. He sits on the couch and plays video games. And sometimes he smashes 4 slices of bread into a big ball and stuffs it into his mouth. Other guys mow their lawn or power wash the patio. Not Dan. He likes to cuddle in front of the TV and watch pro wrestling.
Men, rest assured you'll never meet a woman like this. But kudos to you. You called Hull Tree Care to help shape your shrubs and trim your overgrown trees. Call 760-6587 and ask for their radio discount. 760-6587.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, upper 50s, sunny, mid-90s. Tomorrow, southwest winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Back with us in the afternoon, and doesn't look like those winds are going anywhere real soon. Saturday and Saturday night, still windy and hot and dry. 89 has been our high so far. It's 88 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. They want to take a moment and say thank you for being such good neighbors and friends. They say we live in a great valley, a great country, and U&I features lots of American-made brands. And chairs by Southern Motion, Best, Franklin, and Lane. Always a better buy at U&I. Downtown Logan, 28 West, 100 North. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Believe it or not, a high-quality furnace air filter will reduce the amount of dust and pollen carelessly floating around in your home. John at the Duct Hunter says, always buy a higher-quality air filter. If you can see through a filter, you probably should pass on it. If you're not sure about which furnace air filter to buy, give John a call. He only carries the highest quality, which will reduce the dust and pollen in your home. For a free consultation, call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
Friday edition Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. Tax increase on the horizon. Are the Democrats going to be able to rush it through the Senate just in time for campaign season? Plus, Buck.
Biden administration is circling ever lower in the polls. We'll talk to our friend Jesse Kelly about that. Plus, how do you make the perfect cheeseburger? Stay with us.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Looking for ways to serve but don't know where to begin? Go to justserve.org, a free site to help those who want to serve find opportunities nearby. Just Serve has teamed up with organizations nationwide. Go to justserve.org and type in your city, and you'll see a list of service opportunities. Sign up on Just Serve to receive emails letting you know about new projects. Just Serve is fast, free, and easy. JustServe.org is provided as a service by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. We're all familiar with farmers markets. Often take advantage of them myself. It's a great way to pick up things that I don't have the energy or the time or the focus or the green thumb to raise myself. It's also kind of fun to be out in the midst of a farmer's market for a lot of different reasons. One takes place in downtown Logan, there at the historic courthouse in the parking lot behind every Saturday. There's also one in Brigham City, one that takes place up in Preston, a couple of smaller community farmers markets as well. But one that you may not have heard of and will want to take advantage of now that you know is called the Kids Farmers Market. It happens every Saturday out in Hyrum, and we reached out wondering how this works, how people can be a part of it, and where the idea came from. Our own Bill Walter had a chance to talk with organizers. Take it away, Bill.
On the line today, we have Amanda Butler, who is one of the coordinators on a committee with four others that oversee what's known as the Hyrum Farmkids Market that sets up shop every Saturday in Hyrum. And we've got Amanda on the line. Amanda, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today here on KVNU.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So what can you tell us about the Hyrum Farm Kids Market? It's I guess it's coming up again this Saturday.
Yeah, so it's a market. It's like a farmer's market, but all the vendors are kids, and we run every Saturday in the Hyrum City baseball fields from 9 to noon, but every vendor is a kid. So
cool. That is so neat. So what went into the decision to to come up with a market like this, and especially where it's all children that are running it?
So actually, the idea was started last year. This is our second year running. And last year, a woman named Shelley Sadler, her kids came to her and said that they had seen kids markets in other towns and other places, and they wanted to start one in Hyrum. So they went to the city council, Shelley Sadler and her kids, and went and asked the Hyrum City Council if they could start a kids market, which they said yes. So the idea actually came from some kids. And Shelley Sadler stepped back from running the market last year, but now we have a committee running it, and we're trying to keep it going.
All right. Well, that's great. Kids came up with the idea for the kids market. So 9 to noon, and again, the Hyrum baseball fields is the location. What kinds of things can people get at the kids market?
Oh, we have so many, such a wide variety. Anything you'd see at a farmer's market. We have kids who feed their own chickens and bring the eggs to sell. We have kids who make lollipops. We have kids who make jewelry. Our age range is from 5 to 17, and so we end up getting a large variety of items. We have body scrubs, all sorts of different kinds of food, popcorn. Some people make fresh popcorn. We had some boys who were breeding their bunnies and bringing little baby bunnies to the market.
Wow. So you never know from one weekend to the next what you're going to have.
No, it changes quite a bit. We just ask families to come as often as they're able to. And so for the kids, we usually have about 20 vendors every week. But it does change from week to week. There's all different things.
Oh, that is great. So how long are you going to keep this running this year?
So I believe our last day is August 13th. We stop it before school starts because then kids get too busy to be able to come in and do it again.
All right. So the Hyrum Farm Kids Market is happening again this Saturday, 9 to noon. The Hyrum baseball fields is the location, and from jewelry to fresh eggs to even baby bunnies, you never know what to expect. So the whole valley is invited to Hyrum this weekend. So it's kind of nice. In addition to the other markets, Cache Valley Gardeners Market, of course, the Center Street Wednesday market. We for the last year, we've had the Hyrum Farm Kids Market, and that continues again till about August 13th. So you don't want to delay too long in getting down there. We have Amanda Butler on the line. Amanda, thanks for telling us about this year's Hyrum Farm Kids Market.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Bill and Amanda. And excited to get out and see what this is all about. Again, that takes place every Saturday at the baseball fields in Hyrum. You can find the Hyrum Farm Kids Market on Facebook. I've linked to their page on our own, or you can just search for Hyrum Farm Kids Market, a farmer's market run by kids. And they have some really cool stuff. In fact, looking at their Facebook page here, one of the vendors will have frogs and pens. These are made by teenagers at the south end of the valley, and they nearly sold out of them last weekend on Saturday, of the July 4th weekend. But I'm told that they'll have more coming back, and these are really cool little works of art and bunnies too. I'm excited about bunnies, huh, Bill? Thanks again to Amanda for joining us and Bill for reaching out and getting them here on the show today. I wanted to talk a little bit more about farmers markets because with this interview triggering my memory, I recently listened to an audiobook on food. If you haven't had a chance to read or listen to some of the latest research and history of food in our current world, we've all experienced the weird Maverick cups, the supply chain breakdown and things like that during the pandemic. But I've listened to a few books now that have really got me thinking about how we our relationship with our food, where it comes from. And one of the books that I read, this was a physical book, showed a picture of an item that a person bought at a store, not a farmer's market, but a department store, a grocery store, a chain grocery store in the UK. And the author, when purchasing this, got curious and did some tracking and showed the travel of this food. It starts in Africa, ends up at a port in Beijing where it's stored for a while, and then is distributed up through, of all places, ports in Iceland, and then down to Ireland, and then, and so that's what the author, she purchased this item at a grocery store in her local area there in, I think, right in London, and but 30 miles away, it's grown. It's grown 30 miles away from her home, but she bought one at a grocery store blocks away from her home that had originally come from South Africa and had been, transported by ship to, ports in Beijing. And it's just weird to think about. Now, obviously, with some foods, seasons and things like that play a large part in that. But it really makes you wonder if it doesn't make you wonder. It kind of confirms we haven't thought a lot of this through. And I think, farmers markets, to me, kids farmers markets as well, really drive home the point that there's a lot right here that doesn't have to be shit. We've all bought something at, a local chain supermarket that is produced right here in Cache Valley. Maybe not that very thing, but something we could have bought from someone growing it or making it here in Cache Valley. We bought it at a store, and it was grown or made somewhere else in the world. There's a lot that goes into that. It's worth thinking about, at least. By the way, the original farmers market, I did some digging on this and found that no one's really 100% sure when the very, very first one, but the oldest historical reference to something like this kids' farmers market coming up Saturday out in Hyrum that you just heard about is 5,000 years ago. Along the Nile, farmers along the Nile would come together, and no one's sure if this was a set date or if it was just something that happened at a certain day of the week each week. And that's the guess, is that it was a pretty regular thing, and that they would basically bring all their fresh produce, and they'd all meet at a certain spot that was designated beforehand and was used each and every time along the Nile. And this was a place for others to barter and swap for produce. And so that's the first historical reference to anything like the farmers markets we know today. The first known farmers market in the United States was historically recorded in Boston in 1634, believe it or not. So some pretty cool stuff. Also, the phrase, meet me at the market. This came from those, same style of farmers markets, except in large cities. What would happen is, local merchants and farmers would just, they'd all show up on a curb, a street corner with all their wagons. They kind of take the intersection over for the day, selling their goods. And that was also referred to as a farmer's market. So a little trivia there on farmer's market. Again, the Hyrum Farmkids Market is every Saturday at the baseball fields there by the rodeo grounds in Hyrum. And you can find them on Facebook as well. Just search for Hyrum Farmkids Market, or you can also contact them there as well. They've got some information. And again, thanks to Amanda for joining us here on the show today, Bill for reaching out and making that interview happen. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
At Red River Health and Wellness Center, we utilize non-pharmaceutical approaches to help patients with challenging autoimmune and thyroid conditions. And because each person is unique, we design custom care plans that focus on the individual. Our goal is to improve health, well-being, and quality of life. We work in conjunction with your prescribing physician for an optimal outcome. Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER, with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
I was there for my son's first breath and his
The
last.
infection spreads so
don't
fast.
want others to go my son did not have to die.
School nurses nationwide urge you to listen to the voices of meningitis. Get preteens and teens vaccinated against this rare but serious disease. To learn more, go to voicesofmeningitis.org.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. We've had a chance to talk with representatives of USU Extension, the Utah Division of Water Quality and Natural Resources, quite a few guests over the last year or two on water, everything water as it pertains or relates to our yards, our way of life, our daily activities, and more. Obviously, conserving is something we all need and could do a better job of. But we're also seeing, at the legislative level, talk of incentives for xeriscaping and water-wise landscaping, or even water-free landscaping. Legislation that basically stops HOAs from forcing you to have a green lawn. We've also heard talk of, and there will be, tax incentives even coming up for businesses and large communities even to go in a direction that it just simply uses less water. Also keeping it in perspective that 85% of the water we use each year goes to agriculture. The amount we save is never going to be a majority, but every bit helps, right? Especially when it comes to the future and all the growth we're expected to see here in Cache Valley and throughout the state. So this has been on everyone's mind. You're hearing a lot about it. You're going to hear a lot more about it. It's a legislative focus now, long overdue, in my opinion. And that's all good. But is it really as complicated as it sounds? This actually was an idea a listener emailed in and said, I'm hearing this tip and that tip. And after a while, it starts to seem like, it's so complicated. And I started thinking of people we could reach out to help answer that question here on the show, and we will do that in the future. In fact, next week we've got a couple of guests planned to help answer that question. But I started thinking about my own experience. So I've read a lot about this, having an opportunity to sit here in the studio each and every day and at least once a week over the last year and a half speak with someone who is more expert than I or any of us here on water, on landscaping, I've had an opportunity to even, filling in here and there, running the controls for the garden guide, pick Mark Anderson's brain and things like that. And I've implemented a lot of this in my own landscaping and yard. And I'll be totally honest, I haven't replaced a thing yet. I haven't torn anything out. I haven't lost any grass. I haven't, I have planted, with this on my mind, I have planted plants and things like that don't require as much water, thinking ahead to water just being short, or at least a concern ongoing indefinitely, even once this drought hopefully wanes. And I got thinking about it and I thought, one, this was all pretty easy. Two, it didn't cost a lot or take a lot of time even. And then I realized I'm still watering only once a week. So if you look at the timeline for different regions of the state, here in Cache Valley, things have moved to the 1 to 2 times a week range. We stay in the once a week almost till the end of June, whereas southern Utah, they're already requiring twice a week to keep trees and shrubs and things like that alive and lawns alive. Even if you're letting them go a little bit brown, they're at twice a week by the start of June. We don't get there till the end of June. Now here in July, and with the temperatures, as you've noticed, climbing, we're officially in the 1 to 2 times a week to keep lawns and trees and things like that alive. And as we know, trees and shrubs need a little more attention. Lawns can go brown and they'll come back. They'll survive that. Trees and shrubs won't. So some of the things that I've done, and none of this was because I knew anything that anyone out there listening doesn't know. It was more just talking with guests we've had here on the show, doing a little online research and more. I realized that 3 things that have really made a difference and allowed me to kind of stay at that once a week schedule of watering. One, obviously the rains in June helped, but now here into July, still not seeing a super dead lawn. Trees and shrubs look healthy, and I'm still only watering once a week. I'm going to keep that up as long as I can to do my part. It's simple. I raised the lawnmower. I took it up a notch. Mowing your lawn like a golf course is one of the, well, I'll be blunt, dumbest things you can do. It stresses the lawn. It makes the grass less healthy. It actually hinders root growth, which is how grass, survives a drought, even if it goes brown. And it also requires you to keep it from actually dying. It requires you to water more. You're having to keep the stressed grass alive. Whereas if you raise the lawnmower up a notch or two, if you're mowing it like a golf course, raise it 3 notches, and mow it so it's a little longer when you're finished mowing. It still looks mowed. It still looks nice. But what I found is that it doesn't go brown as fast with just watering once a week. Even still, it stays green. Also, certain fertilizers can help, at least as far as the color goes. But that's a temporary fix. But it can help. And the second thing I did, I stopped bagging. I mulch now. Most lawnmowers have a mulch setting, or if they don't, they'll mulch kind of anyway. If you remove the bag and cover the hole. So those grass clippings, one of the things I learned from USU Extension is grass clippings, they break down pretty quickly, and they're full of very beneficial nutrients for the soil, for the grass itself. And as long as you don't let it get too long, you never have those clumps and rows of cut grass killing the live grass. So mow at least once a week, and mow a longer length. The lawn stays looking nice, but I've noticed I've needed less water, honestly. And then the third thing I did is I took advantage of USU Extension, some of their advice when it comes to watering systems in general. I bought a tree waterer. It's simple. You screw it to the end of a hose, and you shove it in the ground. Up to 24 inches, and then you turn it on. Not full blast. You don't want to blow a hole under there, but turn it on and let it run. One of the benefits to this, I was told, and I've kind of seen this play out actually, it waters the tree, but there's no evaporation because it's going straight underground. And you don't have to water as often or as long. So I shove it in the ground, let it run for about half an hour, and that's it. It wastes 0 water. Every bit of water that comes out of that hose goes into the ground and saturates the ground below ground where the tree and the tree's roots can use it. Those 3 things have made a pretty big difference. And the reason I say this is that I think the answer to our listener's question is no. It's really not that complicated. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to rip out. Now, if you want to, go ahead. Even better if you do. But it doesn't mean we all have to rip out our lawns and cut down the more water needy trees and shrubs and things like that. But we maybe are going to just have to get a little creative. I didn't plan this. These were things. I like toys and I like to buy things and try new things in the yard. And that's how I ended up with a lot of this stuff. But some simple things like raising the lawnmower up a notch, watering the trees with a watering stake as opposed to a sprinkler, and shrubs as well. And then keeping the lawn watering back to once a week, still here even into July and the hot temperatures. My lawn still looks pretty green. The trees and shrubs are very much alive. And I'm still only watering once a week. So I think we can get creative like that. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more. USU Extension, of course, recommends some other things. They recommend if you have leaks in your sprinkler system, obviously fix those as soon as you can. There are a lot of reasons to do that, but water saving is definitely one of them. If you have inefficient systems, consider swapping them out for newer. They're better. There's better technology when it comes to sprinkler systems than some of the old ones. And put aside permanently, or at least for now, some of those less efficient sprinklers that we all use attached to the end of the hose when you do use those. There are some that are actually not that great at saturating the ground. They're better at just putting a lot of water in the air to blow off in the breeze or evaporate. And I've linked to some of this information from USU Extension on our Facebook page, or simply Google USU Extension WaterWise and get some of these tips yourself. But some easy stuff. Appreciate the listener's question. Again, we've got some folks we'll speak with next week on the show. Guests we'll have here in the studio and by phone to answer some of these questions more specifically on how we can, get creative in our own yards, not make huge changes or huge expenses to do something pretty helpful right now, which is finding ways to use less water. Again, 85% of our water use goes to agriculture, so it's a limit how much conserving in our yards we'll even be able to do statewide, but every little bit helps. And if you're wasting, why waste, right? That's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with the For the People movie show. We'll be talking Thor, Love and Thunder. It premieres tonight. Andy will have his review tomorrow on the program. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.